God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you for joining me. I have decided, because I have this kind of social influence, that 2018 will be known as the year of the memo. Not any memo in particular. It will be known as the year of the memo, in the same way that the Chinese years are known as the year of the lion, the year of the tiger, the year of this and that. This year will be the year of the memo, because for the second time in 2 weeks, we're talking about a memo. This is the second memo in what is shaping up to be a series of memos and other declassifications that are going to be made regarding the FISA courts, regarding Christopher Steele, regarding surveillance of the Trump campaign. As I will show you here at the end of this document, the purpose of filing this memo is to recommend that the Department of Justice investigate Christopher Steele for potential violations of 18 U.S. Code 1001. And if I was a professional, I would have looked up what was in 18 U.S. Code 1001, but I failed to do that. So, let's get into the contents of this memo. Hopefully we won't spend as long today as we did on Friday, because some of this information is repeat, and we would just be repeating ourselves, going over the same commentary. But I will be pointing out where this memo corroborates what was in Nunes' memo, and where it even goes steps further. So, first of all, as you know, former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele was hired by the private firm Fusion GPS in June 2016. This is all information that we know, that we've already known, information that's been in the public sphere for 6 months or so. In response to reporting by the Washington Post about Redacted, the Judiciary Committee began raising a series of questions to the FBI as part of the committee's constitutional oversight responsibilities. The FBI has provided the committee access to classified documents relative to Redacted, as explained in greater detail below. When information in those classified documents is evaluated in light of sworn statements by Mr. Steele in British litigation, it appears that either Mr. Steele lied to the FBI or the British court, or that the classified documents reviewed by the committee contain materially false statements. Now, what would need to be done if these are the case? And it's according to this memo that it is one of these three that is the case. Either Christopher Steele is lying to the FBI, in which case he's an unreliable source, or he's lying to the British court, in which case he's an unreliable source and he's now a criminal, or there are materially false statements contained in classified documents compiled by the FBI, in which case the FBI has been led on a wild goose chase where Trump Russia is concerned. This is somewhere where this memo goes farther than the Nunes memo. It suggests that no matter what the outcome is, no matter what the truth is regarding Christopher Steele, the investigation of Donald Trump and alleged ties to Russia is, in fact, a political witch hunt. Let's move right along. They talk about the testimony of James Comey. They mention, as I believe was mentioned in the Nunes memo, that James Comey testified publicly before the Senate Committee on Intelligence that he had briefed President-elect Trump on the dossier allegations in January 2017, which Mr. Comey described as salacious and unverified. Now, something I would like to ask Mr. James Comey is, if he believed the allegations were salacious and unverified, why did he bother briefing the president on those allegations? Now, we know what the answer is to that question. The dossier was presented to the president so that the media could report on it. As we saw in the Nunes memo, as is corroborated and taken one step further in this memo, Christopher Steele was in contact with the media before even the election had concluded, telling them about this dossier, about its existence, and about the claims that were within. Even this being the case, the media wasn't brave enough to report on the existence of the memo or its contents. It wasn't until after Comey and the intelligence community presented the dossier to the president that the media decided they needed to report on the thing. As is stated in this line, there is substantial evidence suggesting Mr. Steele materially misled the FBI about a key aspect of his dossier's efforts, one which bears on his credibility. Now, as we talked about with the Nunes memo, Christopher Steele, speaking with the media, maligned his credibility with the FBI because FBI informants are not allowed to speak with the media on them being FBI informants, which is exactly what Steele was alleged to have done, which is why the FBI released him as an informant in October of 2016. And we're about to get into some of those paragraphs. Public reports, court filings, and information obtained by the committee during witness interviews indicate that Mr. Steele provided dossier information to numerous media organizations prior to the end of October 2016. In Steele's sworn court filings in litigation in London, he admitted that he gave off the record briefings to a small number of journalists about the pre-election memoranda in late summer 2016. In another sworn filing in that case, Mr. Steele further stated that journalists from the New York Times, the Washington Post, Yahoo News, the New Yorker, and CNN were briefed at the end of September 2016 by Steele and Fusion at Fusion's instruction. Now remember, in the Nunes memo, he just talked about the Yahoo News article that had been written, and Yahoo News' source of that article was Christopher Steele. This memo, recommending an investigation of Christopher Steele, indicates that it's likely that Steele spoke to many more media organizations before even the end of September of 2016. It wasn't until October, remember, that Steele was released as an FBI informant. According to these court filings, the briefings involved the disclosure of limited intelligence regarding indications of Russian interference in the U.S. election proceeds and the possible coordination of members of Trump's campaign team and Russian government officials. In his interview with the committee, Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS confirmed this account by Mr. Steele and his company as filed in British court. Remember, these are the claims that the media wanted to report on in October 2016, but they couldn't do it because they couldn't verify the claims and because Steele was ousted from being an informant to the FBI because he had talked to the media. I want to say that there's a lot of information in this paragraph that we've already known about. One that's important is that, in fact, in the British litigation, which involves a post-election dossier memorandum, Mr. Steele admitted that he had received and included in it the dossier unsolicited and unverified allegations. That filing implies that he similarly received unsolicited intelligence on these matters prior to the election as well, stating that Mr. Steele continued to receive unsolicited intelligence on the matters covered by the pre-election memoranda after the U.S. presidential election. Now, received unsolicited intelligence just means that Mr. Steele wasn't going out and looking for the stories to put into his dossier. People were just bringing them to him. One memo by Mr. Steele that was not published by BuzzFeed is dated October 19, 2016. Apparently, this report alleges things that have been redacted from this memo, but apparently, this is important. This is Watergate level stuff. Again, this is the big leagues. Mr. Steele's memorandum states that his company received this report, the report that was redacted, from the United States State Department. You know, the branch of the government that was run by Hillary Rodham Clinton. That the report was the second in a series, and that the report was information that came from a foreign subsource who quote, is in touch with, redacted, probably the Trump campaign, a contact of probably the Trump campaign. But it's a friend of the Clintons who passed it to somebody that's redacted. So the U.S. State Department received a story from a friend of the Clintons, and the U.S. State Department sent that information to Mr. Steele, which seems weird. You would think a friend of the Clintons that had a story on Trump would go to the Clinton campaign. Instead, he appeared to go to Steele. It must have been in the radar of people that knew about this dossier, that knew about Christopher Steele's work, knew that he was trying to make the dossier look like something important and official. It is troubling enough that the Clinton campaign funded Mr. Steele's work, but that these Clinton associates were contemporaneously, basically means at the same time, feeding Mr. Steele allegations raises additional concerns about his credibility. On September 23rd, Yahoo News published its article entitled U.S. Intel Officials Probe Trump Ties Between Trump Advisor and Kremlin. That's the story that they received the information about from Steele, the story that the FBI is alleged to have used in one of their FISA applications. Mr. Schein is described in the article as a longtime Putin associate and former Russian deputy prime minister under sanction by the Treasury Department in response to Russia's actions in the Ukraine. The article attributes the information to a well-placed Western intelligence source who reportedly said that at their alleged meeting, Schein raised the issue of lifting sanctions with Page. This information also appears in multiple memoranda that make up the dossier. In sum, around the same time Yahoo News published its article containing dossier information about Carter Page, Mr. Steele and Fusion GPS had briefed Yahoo News and other news outlets about information contained in the dossier. And there is your confirmation that what Nunes said in his memo about the Yahoo News article being sourced to Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, is confirmed. And then we're at the end of the memo. Again, this memo, in this memo, there's a lot of things that are confirmed that were in the Nunes memo. We're still blowing the lid off of this scandal. It's now beginning to look like it could possibly have been a cover-up orchestrated by President Barack Obama himself. I almost talked about this. It's kind of a separate issue where we're seeing, there were reports today about text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, where Mr. Strzok had said that President Obama wanted to know everything that they were doing concerning the Trump investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, that means that President Barack Obama himself, without plausible deniability, knew that there was a politically motivated scheme underway to undermine President-elect Donald J. Trump. This is big news. This is a big deal. This is why I've been calling it Obama's Watergate since October of last year. It must have been a long day today because I feel like I'm losing my voice. Luckily, that's all that I have to say at this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. You won't want to miss a single video as I'm doing uploads on the weekdays. Another teaser for the project that I'm working on for this summer. I have completed the first draft of the introduction. I hope that you will all come back this summer to enjoy those videos. I think you're going to love it. Until next time, however, have a good night and God bless.